going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling, and this is a news break. I haven't done that in a long time, but this is a news break. Actually, it's a commentary. We're going to be talking today about this whole controversy going on with one of the latest Dark Side of the Ring documentaries that has really taken things by storm in the pro wrestling world and in the pop culture world. It's an interesting series of documentaries about some of the darker, sadder stories in the history of pro wrestling. You know, they've covered Macho Man Randy Savage and Elizabeth. They've covered Brian Pillman, his somewhat tragic life recently, but they also recently covered, and I'm sure you've heard about this, one of the legendary stories in wrestling lore over the last couple decades, which is the infamous plane ride from hell. Now, that was a plane ride where a lot of guys got rowdy, things got happened, there were scissors and people sleeping, and really just a bunch of really juvenile behavior from a bunch of middle-aged men who were multimillionaires on a plane wreaking havoc, and that's just not good. None of that will fly today. It shouldn't have flown back in the day when it happened. But two people got really, really hurt from it. And, well, I shouldn't even say hurt from it. Two people have suffered consequences from it. I should say that. That's probably more accurate. Tommy Dreamer went into detail about, well, as part of the documentary, they went into detail about one of the many stories about Ric Flair and his shenanigans, let's call it, outside of the ring in real life, that Flair is really Flair in real life. And Ric Flair, allegedly on this plane ride, you know, exposed himself to a female flight attendant and then insisted that his junk be handled, his onboard luggage be handled. And that's, I'm not going to get too deep into, I hate talking about these topics, but I'm not going to get too far into that, but it's disgusting. I have my own story from when I was a kid, because I grew up, for those of you who know, I grew up in Baltimore. I've been in Baltimore most of my life. The benefit of that is that I got to see a ton of Jim Crockett promotion NWA shows, WCW shows, WWF house shows, because Baltimore's on the Mason-Dixon line, so you know, we got the NWA and WCW almost every single month here for a time in the late 80s and the early 90s. And I remember one time I was able to sneak over to the Sheraton. And Ric Flair was I'm not gonna get myself into trouble doing this, but I saw Ric Flair being Ric Flair. And that's about as much as I'm going to go into that story. I've told the story before on the old channel, but you know, Flair is as advertised. And but what I saw wasn't any. I'm going to clear that up though. I didn't see any sexual harassment. I will put it that way. But Flair was being a little weird and wild and drunk and Flair. From the brief shot I saw of him, and he got in an elevator and then blah 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 blah. But anyway. So this plane ride is just one of these many stories that we told about Flair. And I remember when the speaking out movement happened a couple years ago. And I was like, how in the world, how long is it going to be until Ric Flair gets canceled? Because I was looking at all of this stuff, and some of the allegations were true, and some of them weren't true, and some of them were just suggestions. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, I'm looking over at Flair and going, boy, if this stuff existed back in the 80s, Flair would have been canceled a long time ago. So it was only a matter of time, I thought, until something like that happened. And then here we go. Here it is. There's a story about Flair. And he got in trouble now. Tommy Dreamer's part in this is that Tommy Dreamer flippantly said, oh, everybody's offended these days. Now, look, I have no love for the woke culture and the way that, yes, a lot of things that get overblown these days. People get offended by stuff that really is not really worth getting offended by, and it's kind of a self-righteous thing to go, aha, I'm standing up for something, look at me, I'm a hero, blah 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 blah. We all know that's what's going on. A lot of people do that crap. People do that crap in wrestling, for God's sakes, all the time. But a man forcing a woman to touch his stuff, to touch him in any way, period. Forcing, no, forget the sex of the people involved. Anybody forcing anybody to touch them when they don't want to touch them is not cool. It's bad. It's not something where you go and then try to lump it into all the weird woke bullshit going on and go, well, everybody's offended. No. This is part of the reason why it's gone overboard with people being offended, because it's the complete opposite of what it used to be when crap like that used to be excused. So then back in the day, it's like, well, everybody can do whatever they want to. Now it's, boys will be boys, all that kind of stuff. Now it's like, well, now everybody's overcorrecting by being offended by everything. But this does not count Tommy Dreamer. So again, you never, ever, for anybody out there, unless somebody agrees and says, okay, you do not go and touch another person unless they tell you to touch them. And I don't care where it is at all. I don't like people. Look, I've had it myself. There's been women who've come by and just tugged on my hair, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Oh, come on, you didn't. No. I don't want you to touch me, especially if I particularly think you looking good. I don't want to be with you. I don't want you touching me. Get the hell away from me. Don't touch my hair. Don't mess with me. So, and I'm joking about it, but the whole incident is a very serious matter, and you don't joke about. I'm not joking about the Flair thing, but I am saying that it can have these different levels, and it is kind of easy for Tommy Dreamer to kind of be flippant about it, but he should have thought twice, man. Or he should have thought once in this case. Like, I can't see joking about. I don't know how you're flippant about it. I don't know how you can be flippant about somebody forcing somebody else to touch. No. So Dreamer suffered the consequences. Apparently he's been either suspended or completely fired from Impact Wrestling. He's now done the thing that he's made it worse for himself now, because now he's gone off and apologized on social media. So that's not. No, that doesn't you can't do that. That's not the way you do it. You don't go apologize on social media. You go and you shut your mouth and you quietly go and make up for it behind the scenes. The reason I say that is because in a situation like that, the best thing for you to do is not to go on social media and make it a social media thing. You shut your mouth and you go and do the work to fix your shit. And that's what Tommy Dreamer needs to do, in my personal opinion, is, go deal with it in your personal life. Because it seems like, the reason I say that is because it seems like when you do something like that, it just seems like the only reason you're apologizing is because people got mad at you and then you had to suffer some consequences for it. So you're not really sorry for what you did. You were only sorry because now you have to suffer consequences for it. So what he really should do is go, and I don't know if he's donating money to charity or helping out women's groups or doing, going to therapy or whatever it is that he needs to do to kind of atone for, being flippant about basically what sexual harassment. He needs to go do it. And the reason is for that too, is that after a while, if he's really committed to it, then people will hear about it and the stories will get shared out, and that'll get out. And then people go, okay, he's done the work. But he's doing it and by just saying I'm sorry and put out a statement on social media. That's not going to satisfy the mobs, number one. And again, it doesn't really show me that you're actually sorry for it. It tells me that you're upset that you got caught or had to deal with consequences of it. As for Flair, he had a really great commercial that I've seen on Facebook and social media a lot, where he's doing these health food things, and then there's another endorsement he had that apparently has been postponed. The company is going to be looking into this incident, and I'm like, dude, you start digging into Ric Flair past allegations and incidents from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, boy, you kind of fear what's going to come up. But again, like I said, I was surprised when the Speaking Out movement happened that something didn't come out about, given Flair's reputation, that people didn't look at Flair's reputation and go, whoa. Now, I'm not in these guys' personal lives. I don't know what Flair has and hasn't done. The only thing I know is what I saw in a hotel at the Baltimore Arena back in the late 80s and as a little kid. So again, my memory's kind of skewed. And again, what I saw wasn't it wasn't sexual harassment or anything like that, but it was Flair being a little wild and being a little loose-lipped, but that was the Nature Boy, and we all kind of thought it was cute and we loved it and everything, even in his elderly age. But now apparently it is not cute anymore. So, again, the most important thing is that, and I'm just saying this as a social issue, just stop harassing people. Again, I don't care what sex it is. Especially men, because, obviously we're physically more powerful than women on average. Not all across the board, but on average. That's just the way nature works. So it is worse for us to force ourselves upon women than it is for women to force themselves upon men, which they rarely do anyway. But it doesn't matter. Whoever it is, if you're a man forcing yourself on a woman you're forcing yourself on a man, or an adult forcing yourself on a child, it's not cool. It's not fun. It's not something to go, oh, everybody gets offended by stuff these days because somebody told you to touch their penis. It's like, no, you just don't do stuff like that. You just don't do it. So I did say earlier, I try to avoid these type of topics because I really don't like talking about these things, but this is something that I had mentioned earlier a couple years ago with the Speaking Out movement. I did say that I don't know what's going to happen when people get around to looking at Ric Flair. It has finally happened, so I felt like I was going to do a little comment on it since I mentioned it before, but that's my thoughts on it. Some of you are going to like it. Some of you are going to be offended. Some of you are going to be pissed off. Some of you are going to call me this. And some of you are going to call me that. I don't give a crap. But let your voice be, if you want to do it, let your voice be heard in the comment box below. I mean, it may stay. I might delete it. But you can go ahead and do it if you want. But I'm interested in what people think about this whole situation. And not particularly what I think about it, but what you think about the situation with Tommy Dreamer and Ric Flair and how it's panning out in the public opinion court of social media. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, we will have more news, rumors, and commentary here for you on the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.